Today we're going to review LLinusLLove versus Berri Sweet heads up, some of the best heads up no limit hold'em players ever. So we're going to look at their hands, see what they did right, see what in my opinion they did wrong, how we can learn from it, and we're going to have some fun. So let's break down these hands. Line is going with 490. He always used to go just a standard 500, so he wants a bit of a discount. And Berri calls, which is going to be his main play here. He's likely going to be 3-betting 20-something%. And he's going to be folding, obviously, the bottom of his range. So 985 is a good board for both players. Both players are going to have sets here. Both players are going to have hands like 2-pair or 6-7 or open-enders, flush draws, overcards. So a pretty good board here. So Linus goes for a pretty big bet here, saying he's quite polarized when betting. He's likely not betting hands like, Queen 8 very often or a hand like Ace King for value. He's just representing a pretty strong hand at this point. Berri does check raise, saying like, hey, I know you're betting quite polarized, so I'm not going to check raise as much as versus, let's say, third pot. But at the same time, I still have a lot of strong hands here, right? Berri should probably defend 6-7 virtually every time. Offsuit, maybe even suited, 8-5 offsuit, that's a classic Berri hand. 9-5 suited, 8-5 suited. He's going to have hands like 10-7 and Jack-10, which have a lot of equity. So plenty of strong equity hands in his range. Linus decides to call. I don't really think he's going to do much 3-betting or any 3-betting for that matter. So Linus can have 6-7 when he does call the flop raise. Turn 10 definitely changes things. Jack-7 and Queen-Jack are hands that both players could definitely have, especially if you have hearts to go with it. I guess Linus is a little bit more likely to have those hands than Berri. Linus calls against a pot-sized bet. River Deuce doesn't change anything. I mean, it's possible Berri had a hand like, 7 Deuce of Hearts or something, but you don't really have showdown value at this point, right? Yes, maybe you beat a hand like whatever, A7 of hearts or, A6 of hearts, let's say, but that's not enough to just say, hey, I'm going to check down my deuce and hope for the best. Your EV in the pot is going to be extremely low. And he goes for something like a 90+% pot bet. Berri is quite the thin value better, so I could see him even having a hand like 2-pair, but mostly he's representing a hand like 5s, maybe 8s, or a straight. Linus does call, so he definitely doesn't have the nuts. Okay. Wow. Oh, sorry, guys. I didn't see it was an all-in. So Linus decided to open a Queen-Jack, which is very standard, and he actually bet called this flop. His draw is not fantastic, given the fact that he only has a gut shot, and given the fact that, the 10 of hearts is obviously not fantastic for him, but somehow he gets a clean run out, and generally when the board is not super wet, and you've got the nuts, just calling down is the best play. Now, if you need to protect your hand a bunch, it makes more sense to potentially fast play. And Berri just fast played the nuts here, which I can't really blame him for. He knows he's behind against Jack-7, Queen-Jack, and Linus does have it, as you can see right here. But playing heads up against a good aggressive player, you cannot wait for the super nuts in order to get all the money in. Berri's very, very happily shoving. And had Linus raised him, let's say 3-4x, Berri definitely would have called. So, nice hand to both players. I like it. What's up, value to spot? What's an ideal bankroll for NL50 fast fold tables? Is 40 binds too aggressive? Yeah, I would say that's generally too aggressive. Now, if you want to play like that with low volume, if let's say you get into a special game, then I think that makes a little bit of sense. But playing 40 binds as your standard bankroll management, no, I would say that's too aggressive. Having the heart, would you ever check the turn with the 6-7? Yes, absolutely, you should. Now, you're representing a very polarized range. Your range is quite strong, so it's not as if we're going to do a shitload of checking, but I do think we should check sometimes. Linus gets a button once again, and once again makes it 490. Berri Sweet 3-betting to around 11 big blinds, always with the hipster sizes, 2-2-2-2. And let's see what Linus does. He's going to call a lot of 3-bets here, especially being a tiny bit deeper. He's going to like his position here. 9-5 deuce is a board which is not too scary to Berri. Unintentional rhyme. But it's not a great board, right? He's not going to connect with this deuce or 5 very often, with the 9 a little bit more often, but Berri likes seeing ace, king, queen, and jack high flops especially. So this board will improve Linus a little bit more. Linus will always call a 3-bet, for instance, with pocket 5s, but I don't think Berri Sweet is 3-betting a hand like pocket 5s or even pocket deuces very often. Pocket 9s, yes, for sure. And so Berri goes for a big bet here. He goes for a pot-size bet plus $3. He's basically saying, hey, I've got a very good hand right here, and I want to fast play it, right? If you have a hand like pocket jacks on a flop like this, you're loving it, right? I mean, there's almost nothing that beats you, so you'd happily get in the 25K on the flop. But like a queen, a king, an ace, a heart, maybe like a 6 or a 5 or a 9, a 7... they're all bad cards for you, right? So you want to get the money in now while you think you're still ahead. Whereas on those cards, it's not much more difficult to get the money in and still be good. So Berri does go for a pot-size bet, saying, hey, I've got a very, very strong hand. And Linus ships here, so he's shipping for protection mostly. You know, if Berri had a hand like Jack 10 of diamonds, he still has a decent amount of equity. So if Linus had a hand like 9-8 suited, he may want to fast play his hand, hoping that Berri just folds a hand, which can make him fold on later streets, especially when Berri bets so large. Okay, so Berri has ace-9 suited here, and he loses both runs. So Berri has ace-9 suited here. He's probably thinking that if Linus had 10s plus, he would have often 4-bet. So his 9 with an ace kicker is realistically not behind unless Linus just flopped a monster like, 5s. So Berri thinks, okay, my hand is very good, but I want to get the money in as soon as I can. So it's kind of the same hand as pocket jacks. And Linus is thinking, well, I have a gut shot, which is always live for 3 outs. I also have 9 flush outs, which are often live. And if Berri folds a hand like I mentioned, like Jack 10 of diamonds, for instance, that's a big victory given the fact that the pot was already so large. So as long as Linus doesn't get it in against a bigger flush draw, he's doing just fine, right? So yes, I guess pocket 9s is not the greatest card, not the greatest hand to see either. But I'm not sure Berri Sweet would have potted it with a hand like pocket 9s, which removes a substantial amount of Linus's calling range or shoving range. So overall, I think this hand was played very well by both players. Shocker. And once again, LLinusLLove with the LLinusLLove equity of just running like God. I do know that Linus in the last year or two hasn't been running as hot against Berri. It's some of those heads-up matches, right? The 1K, 2K games. I'm pretty sure he's down quite a bit, but overall, the heads up, and especially early on in his career, Linus was just known as the biggest luck box. Whenever he played guys he couldn't beat, he would just always win. Whenever he played guys he could beat, he would just always win as well. It was pretty crazy. But good for him, right? Linus is a really hard worker and a really smart guy. And a good guy, too. Deuce 5-9 flush, a board you can do many things on. Exactly. You've been learning at WXR. I mean, I would say third pot bet makes sense. I think half pot makes sense. I think going for a bomb or even a small overbet like what Berri used makes sense. Even a combination of multiple bet size. I think all of those plays have a lot of merit. Whereas there's some boards like, let's say, ace, deuce, rainbow, where betting big does not have nearly as much merit. So you almost, I don't like this. I don't like the word have to, right? I don't think you have to do many things in poker, but you kind of have to bet small and often on ace, deuce, whereas on a board like this, there's a lot more strategies available.